Alright, super long intro time. Okay, I need to clear up a few things before the review gets started. I'm just going to discuss the lateness and also reiterate the purpose of my rating system, since a few people I've seen end up taking it the wrong way. Skip to here if you want to get straight to the movies. First, a lot of lateness honestly has to do with just me getting into the habit of forgetting to upload and edit, and that's okay of course, so apologies there. The other has to do with two other projects going on right now that I'm still getting myself organized on, one of which will hopefully be done before the end of the next month for you to see, but no promises on that. That shouldn't interfere with this either though, so my bad. Second, let me clarify the rating system I use. This is not Rotten Tomatoes. Hell, I'd hardly even call it a critic score, because I'm not a critic. I just like this genre a lot. I'm honestly not even a fan of numbered rating systems anymore. They're too situational. A lot of movies end up being reduced to a hard number despite other factors that went into actually experiencing it. But when you're compositing an enormous list of over 200 movies, you need some sort of way to sort. These scores reflect my personal enjoyment, and even though I try to give credit where it's due, it's mostly based upon that key point. I guess anything above a 5, like I've said in the beginning, is something I'd recommend if you don't want to look at it like that. But again, these are based on my personal taste, which by the end of this part and this point in the series, you should already have a pretty good idea about. Last note, I'm going to have to use a lot less footage. The copyright claims are getting completely ridiculous, and it's not as simple as demonetization. Hell, I'm not even eligible for something like that. But it prevents it from being seen, period, in like just random places, and it's a huge waste of time going back and cutting those portions out and then re-uploading it because YouTube's cutter sucks complete ass. Okay, review time. Number 95 on our list. Oh, it's a pretty good one too. It's Lada Land. This is our first movie from Thailand. This movie is about the sweetest, most kind and caring father in the entire world and his teenage witch bastard of a daughter. His little boy and wife are nice enough though. I like this movie a lot. I really didn't think I would, but I enjoyed my time with this film, and it was mostly because of the characters. The movie does a fantastic job of establishing characters. The very beginning of this movie is dedicated to the father painstakingly fixing up the new house for his family, adding in details and little things with the kindest smile, and you can really see how happy and excited he is to move his whole family into his new home. But the key thing here is that the teenage daughter is somewhat estranged, so she stayed with the wife's mother until they could get a house where they could all live in. And the grandma here is also a real rat bastard who decided to badmouth the father the entire time the girl lived with her, effectively turning her completely against her father by the time they were able to live together, and turning her into the teenage witch bastard I mentioned earlier. Anyways, the new neighborhood they moved into, Lada Land, has a few odd things going on, of the spooky variety no less. The plot is that they are all essentially driven more and more crazy as these paranormal things ramp up, but that's the other thing about this movie. Not much ghosty stuff even really happens. It's very minimal, and the movie focuses more on the effects it has on the characters rather than the scares itself, which I'm fine with because the scares weren't that great anyways. There were a few creepy moments, but they relied on jump scares a whole lot. I want to quickly mention that the score of the movie is pretty great though. The song when they first drive through the neighborhood is pretty fantastic, and they do a good job of keeping the music appropriate, something practically every bad movie on this list fails at. The only thing this movie was missing is the actual horror part. This would be comparable to Hereditary, only if they managed to work on the scary portions. If you like character-driven stories, which, as you can probably tell by this part in the series, I really do, I would highly recommend it. 7.8 out of 10. Number 96 is Ladronas de Almas. Or, I probably butchered that. Ladronas de Almas. That's fine. There's two schools of thoughts regarding bad films, and they revolve around the question, what's worse? A movie that's bad from start to finish? Or a movie that starts promising and just turns to shit? This movie fits in the latter. This movie is about a group of soldiers seeking golden refuge at an estate in this year of 1815. But as you might guess, they find a lot more than gold at this hacienda. It had a somewhat strong opening. I like the setting and potential plot they had in place, and I generally have pretty good experiences with Spanish-spoken horror movies. Unfortunately, this movie turned awful around the time the creepy stuff started happening. That's what I get for stereotyping. This is supposed to be like a zombie witch voodoo movie? The three daughters are supposed to be the type that turns the tables on these invaders, and it's incredibly uninteresting. The score is pretty awful and doesn't fit a lot of the high-tension scenes. It's just not good all around. Complete pass, 3.5 out of 10. There's better period horror pieces out there, like The Witch. Go watch that. Or Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. That's also a really good movie about witch and voodoo zombies. Okay, So I need to apologize for this next movie. I talk an awful lot about it and it's complete crap, but so far it is the most disgusting thing I've seen on this list, and it deserves a time for me to relentlessly shit on it, and it's probably why this video only has one letter in it. Number 97 is Lechmi. Now, I'm not doing that, movie reviewer thing where I go, oh, here we go. No, I really do not want to. I'm really dreading talking about this. There's so much I have to say, and it's all not good. Insofar, this is, as I said before, the absolute worst movie on this list. It infuriated me for so many different reasons. I'm going to talk a lot about this shit show, so again, skip past if you'd rather not listen. This is supposed to be a horror comedy, and again, like all the failure of horror comedies on this list, is just not funny and not scary, so it's practically nothing. I actually kind of like the premise well enough. It's about a ghost girl in an apartment who doesn't know why she died, so she gets help from the new tenants to figure out what happened. That's an okay plot. I don't mind that. But, that's literally the easiest and cheapest thing that you can get right. The problem is everything else. Is there a word for negative charisma? Because this movie just reeks of this. 95% of the actors are awful and have no chemistry, except for the ghost girl. I feel awful for that actress because she actually does a good job of portraying this perpetually confused but kind and well-meaning character, but she's stuck in this awful shit show. Another problem is the sheer number of characters. Only 3 characters are necessary for the story, and there's like 12 of them constantly on screen. Oh, and before I forget, we need to talk about the mild South Asian racism towards black people.
What happened?
There's this female tenant who talks about her husband from America named Sam, and then he walks on screen with this big WWE style intro. I could not believe what I was seeing. To make things even better, there's no reason for this guy to be American, because the actor was clearly from some South African country. Why does he have to be from America? The only impetus that he has from being anywhere not from this country is that he's like a priest, but that can be from literally anywhere. Just let him be whatever country he's from. You're not fooling anybody. I will say that Sam here has the only good joke in the movie.
And you, what are you still doing here? Leave! Go with her! Leave now! You don't belong here either! Leave! What? Leave now!
By this point in the movie, which is like 3/4 of the way through, nothing scary or horror-y has happened. I mean, there's been an attempt at jokes, but we're gonna ignore that. So the director says, oh shit, and realizes they have to shoehorn something in, and that's when the movie becomes disgusting. Spoiler, I guess, who gives a shit? No one's gonna be watching this, and you should not. Ghost Girl's killer is some dude named Ganesh, who is apparently a serial killer, and not just any serial killer. No. His backstory explains that some landlord's daughter fell onto him, and because he's super poor and it was just him and his mom, the landlord got a bunch of guys to kick his shit in, and then they accidentally smacked his mom's head against a rock and inadvertently killing her. So, for revenge, he murders the landlord, his wife, the daughter, and then rapes the daughter's dead body. And so it turns out, he's been killing women and then raping their dead bodies this whole time. We even get a nice little description of what necrophilia is supposed to be from our helpful neighborhood priest, Sam. By the way, the whole time this breakdown's going on, our male protagonists are just busy having one of the most awkward fight scenes I've ever seen with some guys from a restaurant in the woods they had a mild argument with. There's no reason for them to just come all the way out there to meet them. I don't know how they even found them, but they just have a fight scene for no reason because they just wanted to, I guess. Ghost Girl slays the necrophiliac with no help or any part from the main cast, and then she explains to the cast that all the raped dead bodies of the women are buried in the swamp that they're fighting in, and this is where the movie gets even more abhorrent. They decide that instead of revealing the truth to the families who lost their poor daughters, they decide that they're just not going to tell anybody to protect their family's honor. I was baffled and horribly, morally disgusted at the same time. This almost never happens to me. It's so hard to faze me when it comes to these sort of movies. I've seen practically everything, but this is the first time it's happened in such a long time. I was utterly shocked. And the movie just ends there, by the way. That's it. This movie was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. You could have watched Lord of the Rings by then. This movie was so bad that my scale's been broadened, and I need to update a different score. Cult of Chucky is now 2.5, and Let Me is now 2 out of 10. Do I need to give a recommendation? It's not even funny bad like a Viri. No. Just move on. Number 98 is Little Evil. There's unfortunately not much to say about this movie. It's a horror comedy that is yet again neither horror nor comedy. It stars that guy from Parks and Rec who is kind of in a bunch of not great movies. He plays a newlywed husband, but his wife happens to have a bit of extra baggage. Horrific baggage, no less. Her child is a son of the devil, and it's just really not funny. And to make things worse, they try to make it a feel-good movie about 2/3 of the way through, when they abandon the idea of destroying the child. The really awful Satan child becomes smiling and happy completely out of nowhere as soon as he goes to a water park for 2 minutes, and then they make it a father-son movie. I didn't hate it, but it was such a predictable, lukewarm movie. I can't imagine anybody deriving any sort of enjoyment out of this. Maybe if you haven't laughed before, and you want to just try it, 5 out of 10. It sure was a movie. Number 99 is Living in Bondage 2, Breaking Free, and I didn't watch it because it's a sequel, and it was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Huh. Number 100 is Ludo, a Bengali horror movie about 4 of the horniest characters I've ever seen getting trapped in a mall with creepy old people playing Parcheesi. I mean Ludo. Not joking, that's a movie. To clarify, Ludo is the original version of that weird Arrow Parcheesi game. I mean, I've heard of that word before, but I've never actually played it or seen anybody play it. Whatever. Anyways, this movie does have a decent start. I liked how gross and down to earth the atmosphere was in the beginning. I'm not saying that the country is like this, but there's certainly parts like this in India that they don't show you on TV. The plot progression is that they literally cannot find a motel where they can have immoral sexual intercourse, because they don't allow you to do it in those motels, I guess. They decide to say fuck it and go to an abandoned mall instead, where they can just get covered in dust and other gross beetles. But there instead they encounter a freaky old couple. The lady then plays a game of Ludo with them, and then she proceeds to eat the other guy's intestines after winning, and it finally becomes a horror movie. At first it seemed like it was going to be going in a neat direction, but then it literally becomes a completely different movie. The old couple's backstory isn't told in a 10-minute segment, mind you, it's the rest of the fucking movie. The whole second half. Basically a cursed game that's possessed by devils. They are brother and sister, game forces them to commit incest, father curses them to live forever as weird vampire things that needs to eat flesh to rejuvenate, and something about the game being magical and powerful, I don't know. It was really disappointing at this point, and I'm upset it turned out this way. It could have been neat, but it was just annoying. I don't know if I can recommend this. Most likely not, but maybe if you know about this stuff beforehand, it'll make an okay experience. It certainly is different for an Indian horror movie, so I guess I'm glad I watched it. Wait, is Indian the same as Bengali? Oh, I'm a race trader. I don't think it's quite as bad as everyone else makes it out to be from the reviews I've seen online, but no, it's still not good. 4 out of 10. Number 101 is Lupt. However you say it. Boy, I gotta say, I'm glad that I'm recording all this and writing it down, because I would not have remembered a single thing about this damn movie if I didn't write it down immediately after watching it. Lupt is an Indian horror that feels like a creepshow episode stretched over nearly 2 hours. Workaholic dad takes his family on a road trip to release some stress, and they all begin to experience horrible visions. Slightly unnerving visions. Annoying visions, really. One character that I want to point out is the incredibly inoffensive but unfunny son who's like 20 years old, who's played by a 35-year-old. He pulls really dumb, harmless, and unfunny pranks, and after pretending to be eaten by a doll baby in a baby carriage in the middle of the road, the family says, alright, you know what, we've had it. The dad slaps him in front of everybody, and they all get pissed off at him because they have the comprehension of a 5-year-old. He does such mild shit, and they get so angry at him, it's completely laughable. I haven't even talked about the dad's performance yet, who thinks he's on Broadway or is trying to get there by overacting his heart out. But that at least makes it entertaining.
Trying, Mr. Mehta? Trying? London Group of Industries does not operate on a trial basis. He's dead.
No, it's not scary. The horror aspect is just the same old, you did something bad, and now your family is paying for it, sort of ghost stuff. I weirdly enjoyed it for the theatrical elements, but then again, if I didn't write down anything about this movie, I would not have remembered anything. I saw the title on my list and I said, what the fuck is Lupt? No, I cannot recommend this movie to anybody at all. 4.3 out of 10, I guess. I don't know. And it looks like that just about does it for the L's. Boy, there were a lot of stinkers on this one. In fact, I think it's the most stinker to good ratio that we've had. Like one movie, and it was at the very beginning. Oh, Jesus. If you're this far into the series and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. There's sure to be more content coming out, and that way you won't miss it because of my weirdly irregular schedule. And who knows, you might see more of these Netflix reviews. You should. I would hope so. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And it really does help. And please like and share if you can. It does all help a whole lot. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and see you again next week.